I was 25 years old, flat broke, and full of excuses. I had a wife, a baby, and a bank account that could not survive a single bad week. And if you had looked at me from the outside, at my clothes, my apartment, my circumstances, you would have drawn a very reasonable conclusion. You would have said, Fat Man is not going anywhere. And you would have been right, not because of my circumstances, because of my identity. Here is what nobody told me at 25, and what I want to tell you right now, before we go 1 minute further. The crown does not make the king. The king makes the crown. Every great transformation I have ever witnessed, in my own life, in the lives of the people I have worked with, in the stories of men and women who built something from nothing, every single one of them began the same way. Not with a new job, not with a new city, not with a lucky break. They began with a decision, a private, quiet, unwitnessed decision about who they were going to be, before a single piece of evidence existed to support it. That is what I want to give you today. Not inspiration, not a pep talk, a mechanism, the specific framework behind identity, level transformation, the internal posture of a winner, and the daily behavioral proof that must precede every external success you will ever earn. Stay with me until the end, because the last piece of this, the piece most people never hear, is the one that changes everything. Let me take you back to a specific moment. I am sitting across from a man named Earl Schoff. He is successful. He is calm. He carries himself with a kind of quiet authority that I had never seen up close before. And I am trying to explain to him why my life has not worked out the way I hoped. I give him the full list. The economy, my upbringing, the lack of opportunity in my town, the people who had not helped me when they could have. I lay it all out, neat and organized, like a lawyer presenting a case. And he listens. He lets me finish. And then he says something that I have never forgotten. He says, Jim, the problem is not your circumstances. The problem is that you have been living as the wrong person. I did not understand him at first. I thought he was being philosophical. I thought he was speaking in riddles, but he was not. He was being precise. He explained it to me this way. Ending, he said, every result you see in your life is a reflection of the person you have decided to be. Change the person, and the results must follow. They have no choice. But try to change the results without changing in the person, and they will always snap back like a rubber band to exactly where you started. That was the day I understood something that most people never grasp. Your circumstances are not the cause of your life. They are the effect of your identity. They are the external printout of an internal program. And if you want to change the printout, you must first change the program. Now, here is what makes this difficult. The program runs quietly. It runs in the background every single day, shaping your posture, your decisions, your language, your habits. And most people never examine it. Bending, they just live it. They accept the life the program produces and call it fate. I want you to ask yourself something honest right now. When you look at your life today, your finances, your relationships, your daily habits, are those the results of the person you have chosen to be? Ending, or are they the results of a person you simply drifted into becoming? Be honest, because honesty is where transformation begins. The first step in the Rohn Identity System is this: you must audit the program before you can rewrite it. And that audit begins with a single uncomfortable question. Who exactly have I decided to be? Let me tell you about the king and the crown, because I think most people have the sequence backwards. Most people believe that success produces confidence, that results produce identity, that once the money comes, Once the promotion arrives, once the recognition appears, then they will feel worthy. Then they will carry themselves differently. Then they will believe. And I understand that logic. It seems reasonable. It seems safe. Wait for the evidence and then believe. But I want to tell you something. That sequence, wait for results, then believe, is the sequence of a follower. It is the sequence of someone who lets the world define them. And it will keep you waiting for the rest of your life. The king does not wait for the crown to walk like royalty. He decides in private, before anyone is watching, before a single result has appeared, that he is already worthy of the standard he is reaching for. And that decision changes his posture. His posture changes his behavior. His behavior changes his results. And his results eventually change his circumstances. Do you see the sequence? It begins with a decision, not with a circumstance. Now, I want to be careful here because I have seen people misuse this idea. They decide they are wealthy and they stop working. They decide they are successful and they stop growing. They confuse the internal decision with the external arrival. That is not what I am teaching you. The decision I am talking about is not a fantasy. It is a commitment to a standard of behavior. Then when you decide you are the kind of person who keeps his word, you keep your word, even when it is inconvenient. Ding, when you decide you are the kind of person who invests in his mind, you open the book. Even when you are tired. When you decide you are the kind of person who handles money with discipline, you make the disciplined choice. Even when no one is watching. That is the decision that precedes all evidence. Not a feeling, not a visualization, a behavioral commitment to the identity you have chosen. Drop a 1 in the comments right now if you have ever waited for the results to appear before you allowed yourself to believe. Because I think most of us have been there. And I want you to know the waiting ends today. There is a quality I have observed in every person who has built something lasting. I have been in rooms with people of extraordinary achievement, and I have noticed that before you hear their words, before you learn their story, before you understand their credentials, you feel something. Anding a kind of gravity, a settled authority, an internal posture that communicates without a single word, I know who I am. I call this the internal posture. And it is not arrogance. The arrogance is loud. Arrogance is insecure. Arrogance needs the room to confirm it. The internal posture I am describing is quiet. It is rooted. It does not need the room's approval because it has already approved itself. Now, how do you build this? Because I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, that sounds wonderful, but I do not feel that way. I feel uncertain. I feel unproven. I feel like I am still becoming. Here's what I want to say to you. Good. The feeling of becoming is not a disqualification from the posture. It is the fuel for it. The king in the making carries himself like a king precisely because he understands the distance between where he is and where he is going. And he has decided that distance will not humble, there it will build him. The internal posture has 3 components. Let me give them to you clearly. The first is certainty of direction. You do not need to know every step of the road, but you must know where you are going. A man who knows his destination walks differently than a man who is wandering. Your uncertainty of direction gives your posture a forward lean, not physical, but energetic. People feel it when you walk into a room. The second is ownership of your choices. A king does not blame the weather for the harvest. He plans for the seasons. He takes full ownership of what his fields produce, good year or bad. When you carry that ownership, something remarkable happens. You stop giving your power away to circumstances. And the moment you stop giving your power away, your posture changes. You stand taller. Not because things got easier, because you stopped waiting for things to get easier. The third is dignity in the process. Not impatience, not desperation. Dignity. The understanding that the work itself, the daily discipline, the quiet grind, the unseen effort is worthy of respect. When you treat your daily process with dignity, others sense it. And more importantly, you sense it in yourself. These three, certainty of direction, ownership of choices, dignity in the process, this is the internal posture of a king. Standing, and you can begin carrying it today, not when the crown arrives, today. I want to talk to you about something I call the identity gap, because I believe this gap is the single greatest reason why intelligent, hardworking, well-intentioned people never fully arrive at the life they are capable of living. The identity gap is the distance between who you currently are, the person, your habits, your language, your daily choices, and your self-image reflect, and who you must become to produce the results you want. Most people are aware of the gap. They feel it. They feel it when they see someone else accomplish what they have been trying to accomplish. They feel it when they set a goal and then quietly, without announcing it, let it go. They feel it at the end of the year when they realize they are in almost exactly the same place they were 12 months ago. But here is what most people do not understand about the identity gap. They try to close it from the outside. They change their environment. They buy new tools. They find a new program. They set new goals. And none of it works. Not permanently, because they have not addressed the gap at the level where it actually lies. They have not changed who they believe they are. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you have a thermostat set to 65 degrees. The room is cold, so you build a fire. The room warms up, but the thermostat, the internal setting, is still at 65. So the system works against the fire. It compensates, and eventually the room returns to 65 degrees. Your identity is that thermostat. It has a setting. And every result in your life will tend to return to that setting, no matter how hard you work on the outside, until you change the setting itself. So how do you change the setting? Not by wishing, not by affirmations alone. You change it by behaving consistently, deliberately over time, as the person you have decided to become. Then the new behavior creates new evidence. The new evidence updates the belief. The updated belief raises the thermostat, and the raised thermostat begins to produce new results automatically. This is not a quick process. I will not lie to you about that, but it is a reliable one. And reliability in a world full of shortcuts that do not work is the most valuable thing I can offer you. The identity gap closes one daily decision at a time. And the first decision, the most important one, is to stop living as the person your past produced and to start living as the person your future requires. Now I want to give you the framework, the specific practical architecture of identity transformation. I call these the 5 pillars, and I want you to understand that these are not theories. These are observations drawn from decades of watching people succeed and fail and studying the difference. The first pillar is the decision of standard. Standing, before you change a single habit, you must decide what standard you are willing to hold yourself to. Not what you hope for, not what you would like. What you will accept from yourself as the minimum. A king does not negotiate his standard downward when circumstances get difficult. He holds the line. And holding the line, even on small things, especially on small things, is the first act of identity. The second pillar is the language of identity, the words you use about yourself, privately in your own mind, are either building the person you want to become or reinforcing the person you are trying to leave behind. When you say, I am not good with money, You are not describing a fact. You are issuing an instruction, and your behavior will follow that instruction faithfully. Begin instead to say, I am becoming someone who handles money with wisdom. That is not a lie. That is a direction. And direction, spoken consistently, becomes destination. The third pillar is the circle of identity. I have said for many years that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not a social observation. It is a biological and psychological fact. The people around you set the standard for what is normal. And what is normal for your circle will become normal for you in your language, your habits, your ambitions, your self-image. If you want to become a king, you must spend time with people who carry themselves like kings, not to impress them, to absorb them. The fourth pillar is the daily behavioral proof. This is the one most people skip, and it is the most important. Every day, you must give yourself evidence that you are the person you have decided to be, not grand gestures. A1 small, consistent acts of alignment. You wake up when you said you would wake up. You do the work you committed to doing. You handle the difficult conversation instead of avoiding it. Each of these small acts is a vote for the identity you are building. And over time, the votes accumulate into an unshakable belief. The fifth pillar is patience with the process. Transformation does not announce itself. It does not arrive with fanfare. It accumulates quietly, like interest in an account you almost forgot you opened. Then you will not feel different after 1 week. You may not feel dramatically different after 1 month, but at some point, and this I promise you, you will look back and realize that the person standing in your shoes today is not the same person who started. And that realization is one of the most profound experiences a human being can have. If what you have heard so far, the identity gap, the internal posture, the 5 pillars, if that is speaking to something real in you, something you have felt but never had the language for, then I want you to do something right now. Subscribe to this channel, because this is what we do here week after week. We go beneath the surface. We do not deal in slogans. We deal in mechanisms. And if you are the kind of person who wants to understand not just what to do, but why it works and how it works at the deepest level, then you belong here. What I am about to share with you in the next section is the piece that most people in this conversation never reach. It is the behavioral proof, the specific daily actions that lock the new identity in place so that it cannot slip back. Stay with me. Let me tell you something about proof. You cannot simply decide to be a new person and then live exactly as you did before. The mind does not work that way. The identity needs evidence. It needs to see in your daily behavior confirmation that the decision was real. I think of it like a courtroom. You have made a declaration. I am the kind of person who builds, who disciplines himself, who keeps his commitments. Now the jury of your own subconscious is watching. And every day your behavior is either making the case for that declaration or undermining it. The daily behavioral proof is not complicated, but it is non-negotiable. It begins with the morning. How you start the day is how you vote for your identity before the world has had a chance to vote against it. I am not talking about a complicated ritual. I am talking about 1 or 2 acts of intentional discipline before the noise begins. Read for 30 minutes. Write down 3 things you are committed to today. Take a walk and think. Genuinely think, not scroll, not listen, think. These small acts tell your subconscious before breakfast who you are. Then there is the discipline of keeping small promises to yourself. This is one of the most underestimated tools of identity transformation. When you tell yourself you will do something, something small, something private, something no one else will ever know about, and you do it, you are building a track record with yourself. And that track record becomes the foundation of self-trust. And self-trust is the bedrock of identity. Most people break promises to themselves constantly. Ending, they say they will wake up early and they sleep in. They say they will exercise and they skip it. They say they will read and they watch something instead. And each of these small broken promises, each one feels trivial in the moment, deposits a small but real message into the account of their self-image. The message is, you cannot be trusted, not even by yourself. Reverse that pattern. Start with promises so small you cannot break them. Promise yourself you will read 1 page. Promise yourself you will walk for 5 minutes. Promise yourself you will write 1 sentence in your journal. And then keep that promise exactly as you said. And then make a slightly larger promise tomorrow. This is how identity is built, not in grand leaps. In the compounding interest of small kept promises accumulated daily over months and years, then until the person looking back at you in the mirror is unmistakably someone who can be trusted by the world and by himself. I want to spend some time with you on the subject of language, because I believe, and I have believed this for as long as I have been teaching, that the words you use are not simply a description of your reality. They are an instruction to your reality. Let me say that again, because it is worth sitting with. Your words are not just a description. They are an instruction. When you say, I could never do that, you are not reporting a fact. You are issuing a command. When you say, things never work out for me, you are not being realistic. You are programming your perception to find the evidence that confirms that belief and to ignore the evidence that contradicts it. The king speaks to himself differently, not with false optimism, not with hollow affirmations that he does not believe, but with the language of a man who has decided where he is going and is willing to narrate his journey accordingly. Here is the distinction I want you to understand. There is a difference between lying to yourself and leading yourself. Lying to yourself sounds like, I am already wealthy, when your bank account says otherwise. That is not useful. That is delusion. But leading yourself sounds like, I am becoming the kind of person who builds wealth with discipline and patience. That is not a lie. That is a direction. And direction spoken consistently becomes destination. Let me give you 3 language shifts that I want you to practice. Starting today. Not tomorrow. Today. We'll replace I can't with I haven't learned how yet. The first closes a door. The second keeps it open and assigns responsibility to you where it belongs. I replace I have to with I choose to. I have to go to work makes you a victim of your own life. I choose to go to work because I am building something makes you the author of it. Then the facts are identical. The identity implications are completely different. Replace I'll try with I will. I'll try is a soft commitment that has already built in the excuse for failure. I will is a declaration. And declarations made consistently become character. Now, here is the comment I want you to leave below. Tell me, what is one language pattern you have been using about yourself that you are going to replace starting today? Write it out. Then, because the act of writing it publicly is itself a behavioral proof. It is a vote for the new identity. And I want to see it. I want to talk about the people in your life. Because this may be the most uncomfortable part of what I am going to share with you today. And I believe it is the most important. I have said it simply, and I will say it again. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not because I want to make you feel guilty about your friendships, but because the environment you live in, the conversations you have, the attitudes you absorb, the standards you are surrounded by. These things shape your identity more powerfully than any book you will ever read or any video you will ever watch. Think about the conversations you have most frequently. Are they conversations about ideas, about growth, about what is possible? Or are they conversations about what is wrong with the world, about what other people are doing, about why things are difficult? I am not asking you to abandon the people you love. I am asking you to be honest about what those conversations are doing to your identity. Because every conversation you participate in is either reinforcing the person you want to become or reinforcing the person you are trying to leave behind. Here is a practical question. Standing, think of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now ask yourself, if you became the average of those 5 people, would you be happy with that result? And would that average person have the financial discipline you want, the ambition you want, the character you want? If the answer is yes, then protect those relationships fiercely. Then invest in them, deepen them. They are among the most valuable assets you have. If the answer is no, and for many of you, the honest answer will be no, then you have some decisions to make. Not about cutting people off dramatically, but about where you direct your time, your energy, and your attention. About whose voice you allow to have authority in your life. And seek out the people who are already living at the standard you are reaching for. Not to use them, not to impress them, but to absorb the way they think, the way they speak, the way they handle difficulty, the way they treat their commitments. Proximity to excellence is one of the fastest ways to raise your own thermostat. And if you cannot find those people physically, attend their seminars, read their books, listen to their words. Let their voice become one of the voices in your daily environment. Because your mind does not always distinguish between a conversation you had in person and a conversation you had through a page. Both leave a deposit. I want to teach you something about timing. Because I have seen many people begin the work of identity transformation with great enthusiasm and then abandon it, not because the work was wrong, but because they misunderstood the seasons. Nature has 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. And the farmer who understands the seasons does not plant in winter and expect to harvest in the same week. He plants in spring, he tends in summer, he harvests in autumn, and he prepares in winter for the next cycle. He does not curse the season he is in. He works within it. Your identity transformation has seasons too. The first season is the season of decision. This is spring. You have made the choice. You have decided who you are becoming. You have set the standard. The seeds are in the ground. Nothing is visible yet. And this is where most people panic. They look at the bare field and conclude that the work is not working. They pull up the seeds to check if they are growing. And in doing so, they destroy the very thing they planted. Let the seeds be. Trust the decision. Keep planting. The second season is the season of discipline. This is summer. The work is invisible from the outside, but intense on the inside. This is the daily behavioral proof, the kept promises, the early mornings, the books read, the difficult conversations handled, the temptations resisted. Summer is long. Summer is hot. Summer requires that you show up when you do not feel like it. And this is precisely where character is formed. The third season is the season of evidence. This is autumn. The harvest begins to appear. Results start to show up, not all at once, but undeniably. People begin to notice something different about you. Opportunities arrive that did not arrive before. And here is the danger of autumn. The temptation to stop working because the results have appeared. The farmer who eats all his harvest and saves nothing for winter will not survive to plant in spring, Harvest wisely, reinvest. Stay disciplined even when the results are good. Then in the fourth season is the season of reflection. This is winter. You look back at the year. You assess what worked and what did not. You prepare for the next cycle. You do not despise winter. One winter is where wisdom is distilled. Winter is where the farmer plans the better crop. The person you want to become is not going to appear overnight. But if you understand the seasons, if you plant faithfully, tend diligently, harvest wisely, and reflect deeply, then the transformation is not a matter of if. It is a matter of when. I want to talk to you about the formula, because everything I have shared with you today, the decision, the posture, the language, the circle, the seasons, all of it rests on one foundational principle. And that principle is this: small disciplines practiced daily compound into identity. Let me be precise about what I mean by compound. When you make a daily investment, financial, intellectual, physical, spiritual, it does not simply add, it multiplies. The interest earns interest. The knowledge builds on knowledge. The discipline reinforces discipline. And over time, the accumulation becomes something that is qualitatively different from the sum of its parts. Here is the difficult truth about this principle. It works in both directions. Small disciplines practiced daily compound into excellence, but small neglects practiced daily compound into failure. And the insidious thing about both of these processes is that neither one is visible in the short term. The person who reads 10 pages a day does not feel dramatically smarter after 1 week. And the person who skips their reading for 1 week does not feel dramatically less capable. The gap is invisible in the short term, but in 5 years, the gap is a canyon. I have a phrase I have used for many years: easy to do and easy not to do. The small daily disciplines I am describing are not hard. Reading 10 pages is not hard. Writing in a journal for 5 minutes is not hard. Taking a walk and thinking is not hard. Going to bed 30 minutes earlier is not hard. These things are easy to do, but they are also easy not to do. And that is precisely why most people do not do them, because there is no immediate consequence for the neglect. The formula for success is not complicated. It is the consistent daily execution of simple disciplines over a long enough period of time that your identity cannot help but transform. Because you cannot behave like a king every single day for 5 years and still believe you are a peasant. The evidence accumulates. The belief updates. The thermostat rises. And the results follow. And here is the formula for failure, stated with equal clarity. It is the consistent daily execution of simple neglects. Skipping the reading, breaking the promise, avoiding the difficult conversation, spending what should be saved, over a long enough period of time that your identity cannot help but reflect those choices. You are not choosing between hard and easy. You are choosing between two kinds of easy. The easy that serves you and the easy that costs you. And the difference between those two choices, compounded over time, is the difference between the life you want and the life you settled for. If you have made it this far, and I am grateful that you have, then you are not a casual observer of your own life. You are someone who takes this seriously, someone who understands that the work of becoming is the most important work there is. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, because what we are building here week after week is a library of this kind of depth, not surface level motivation, but the mechanisms behind transformation, the kind of content that you return to not once, but many times as you grow into the person you have decided to become. We have 2 more pieces to cover, and they are, I believe, the most powerful of everything I have shared today. I want to address something directly because I know it is on your mind when I say, carry yourself like a king before the crown comes. Some part of you is asking, is that not fake? Is that not pretending to be something I am not? Is there not something dishonest about acting as if I have already arrived when I clearly have not? It is a fair question, and it deserves a precise answer. There is a difference, a crucial difference, between pretending and preparing. Pretending is telling people you have accomplished things you have not accomplished. Pretending is living beyond your means to create the appearance of success. Pretending is a performance for an audience. And pretending eventually collapses under the weight of reality. Preparing is something entirely different. Preparing is adopting the habits, the language, the disciplines, the standards, and the internal posture of the person you are becoming. Not to deceive anyone, but to build the real thing from the inside out. Then preparing is practicing the scales before the concert. Preparing is wearing the uniform before you have won the championship. Preparing is treating your daily work with the same seriousness and dignity that you would bring to it if the whole world were watching. Being the athlete who trains with championship intensity before anyone has given him a championship is not faking anything. He is preparing, and the preparation. The daily behavioral proof of championship level commitment is precisely what produces the championship. So when I say carry yourself like a king, I am not asking you to lie to yourself or to anyone else. I am asking you to adopt the internal standard of the person you have decided to become, and to let that standard govern your behavior, your language, your choices, and your posture starting now. Auditing not when the results appear. Now, because here is the truth that the seasons have taught me, the results appear because of the preparation. Yearning in, the crown arrives because the king was already walking like one. The harvest comes because the seeds were planted. And the seeds were planted because the farmer decided in the cold of winter that he was a farmer before a single green shoot had appeared to confirm it. Yen Wandi, if this is landing for you, if you have someone in your life who is in the middle of their winter right now, who needs to hear that the preparation is not pretending, that the work is real even when the results are not yet visible, share this video with them today. Send it to them. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone you love is hand them the language for what they are already experiencing. We have come a long way together today. And I want to close with the thing that I consider the most important insight of everything I have shared. The one decision that if you make it today, genuinely, deeply, irrevocably, changes everything that follows. It is not a complicated decision, but it is a profound one. And most people never make it, not because they cannot, but because they are afraid of what it will demand of them. Here is the decision. Decide today that you are responsible, fully, completely, without reservation, responsible. Responsible for who you are. Responsible for who you are becoming. Responsible for the results you have produced and the results you are going to produce. Then responsible for the people you spend time with, the books you read, the thoughts you entertain, the habits you practice, the standards you hold, and the identity you are building one daily choice at a time. Not responsible for everything that has happened to you. Some things happened to us that we did not choose and did not deserve. I know that. Then life is not always fair, and I will not insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise, but responsible for your response. Responsible for what you do with what you have been given. Responsible for the story you tell about your circumstances, whether it is the story of a victim or the story of a student. Because the story you tell is the identity you build. And the identity you build is the life you live. I was 25, flat broke, and full of excuses. And the day Earl Schoff sat across from me and told me the problem was not my circumstances. It was my identity. I had a choice. I could defend my excuses or I could accept the responsibility. Dang, I could keep telling the story of all the reasons my life was not working, or I could begin the work of becoming someone whose life did work. I chose responsibility. And that choice, that single private, unwitnessed decision, was the beginning of everything. The crown does not come to those who wait for it. Ding, it comes to those who decide in the quiet of their own soul that they are already worthy of the standard it represents, and then prove it daily, discerning in the small and unseen choices that no one else will ever know about. Standing that is the Rohn Identity System, not a program, not a hack, formed in a decision, followed by a standard, followed by daily behavioral proof, followed by patience with the seasons, followed by the compounding of small disciplines into an unrecognizable transformation. You have everything you need to begin, not tomorrow, today, right now in this moment, with whatever you have and wherever you are. The question is not whether you are capable. You are. The question is whether you are willing to make the decision, the real decision, the one that costs you your excuses, and carry yourself from this day forward, thennings, and like the person you have decided to become, yon free I believe you are. I believe that is why you are still here. And I want you to leave a comment below. Not just any comment, but this one specific thing. Write down the one identity decision you are making today. The one sentence that describes the person you have decided to become. Write it here publicly as your first act of behavioral proof. Because the king does not wait for permission. A honor, he decides. And then he begins. You came here today looking for something, and now you have it. Not just inspiration, but the mechanism. The decision precedes the crown. Always. You are far, and thanks for watching. The end screen has more videos in the same world. Thanks for being here. Pick whichever video on the end screen calls to you and keep building.